But today's topic, you guys, on Sharpen is kids then, adults now, and everything in between. And we pull the title of our hangout, of our live stream, of this whole to-do from Proverbs 27 and 17, which basically says that iron sharpens iron and one friend sharpens another. And that's what we find ourselves doing with each other. So I think Tyra and Lynn pretty much are answering the same questions, and then Danny and I are answering the same questions about childhood and adulthood and everything in between. If you're on live with us, feel free to interact with us in the chat. If you want, you can say what you want to say. You can ask what you would like to ask, whatever, no pressure. So the first question is for Danny and me, and it's, how would you describe yourself as a child?
You want to go first?
Okay.
As a child, I was really shy. And I was very much so into school, into my schoolwork, and making sure that I stayed on top of my grades. I was quiet as a child. So when it came to making friends, I wasn't always the initiator. But I had friends. I was just to myself a lot, and I think a lot of that also stemmed from being an only child. So I didn't have my siblings until I was 14 years old, and they did not live with me. They lived with my dad because they were my dad's children. So most of my life, I grew up as an only child. I was definitely spoiled. Mm-hmm. Lord knows I was spoiled, and I thank my parents for that. But I'll get to the adult part of that whole spoiledness and kind of how I'm working on that. But I was definitely spoiled as a child. But, I would say for the most part, I was a good kid. Every kid does things that they shouldn't do. So, of course, there were things that I did that I shouldn't have done. But I was a pretty good kid. I guess that's it.
Well, we have a lot of similarities. I'm the only child between my mother and my father. I did not have siblings until I was 12. So we're both much older than our siblings. Mm-hmm. My brother came when I was 12. My sister came when I was 14. I have a stepsister who is probably about 5 years behind me. So I was spoiled rotten. When you said you were spoiled, I was thinking of every Christmas at my grandmother and grandfather's house, my dad's parents, there would be like a buttload of gifts under the tree, and about 95% of them were for me. And when I got to the last gift of my own, I had an attitude. When I finished opening all my gifts, I still had an attitude. Whoa. That's how spoiled I was. That's how spoiled I was. Mm-hmm. And I think, like you said, I started to see that I got a rude awakening as to how spoiled I was. Really, when I got married.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're similar like that in a lot of ways. I grew up athletic. I remember one of those good childhood memories. What you laughing at? What?
I'm looking. There's a peanut gallery, but I'm just looking.
They say we spoiled kids.
I was spoiled too, though.
I wasn't nobody spoiled.
Right. Yeah, it was a rude awakening. But one of my fond childhood memories is participating in field days when I was in elementary school. And I just think about how I always loved being athletic. We would do relay races. I love the relay races. And I did that on up through high school. But I think competitions, seeing how I matched up to other kids as far as athletic ability was an exciting thing for me because I always found myself in the top tier. Yeah, I think I was a pretty good kid. I wouldn't get a whole bunch of phone calls and stuff like that home. Although I did have some times when I was doing stuff I knew I wasn't supposed to be doing. And, but I mean, I grew up in church when I lived with my mom. I went to church religiously with her every Sunday. When I moved with my dad, I went to church with him every Sunday. My family was, in the church. So regardless of the changes that I went through, from parents divorcing, getting half siblings coming into my life, step sibling coming into my life, matriculating on up through school. I still look back and say I really have a loving family, and they made sure that I knew I was special. They made sure I knew I was special. Both sides of my mom's side of the family, my dad's side of the family. I remember my maternal grandparents never missed a birthday. They faithfully sent me birthday cards because they lived out of state. Faithfully sent me birthday cards with money every year. I came to expect that. I came to know I grew to know that was coming from them. My aunts and uncles from my mom's side, because my mom has a lot of sisters and a brother. They always wanted me to know that I was loved. So I think I'm honing in on that because I'm understanding the importance of watching over children as they come up in family. And I know everybody's story is different. I know that, kids go through different things coming up. Our upbringings are not the same, but I am able to look back on that and say, I really had a good, my family was really good at that. Immediate and extended family was really good at letting me know that I was loved. And I really appreciate that today.
And I kind of forgot some things, like as you were speaking, I was like, I kind of gave a short description of myself, but I was also very athletic as a child. I loved basketball, and that was a part of the description in the SHARPEN promo thing.
Oh, who'd up?
So I love basketball. A lot of people are so shocked when I say that because they're like, "Well, you play basketball?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
Is that the voice that everybody? You play basketball.
You play basketball?
They thought you were too prissy?
Yeah. But I was very much so a tomboy growing up. I loved sports. I actually didn't like playing with dolls a lot. I didn't really like dolls. I didn't like doing hair. I didn't really like a lot of girly stuff. So I was very athletic, and I loved music. I was very musical as a child as well. Loved playing instruments, loved singing. I even danced for a little bit, and then I broke my leg, so I stopped dancing. And I broke my leg playing basketball.
Yep.
So yeah, you just made me think about that. And I also have a very, very loving family, and still do to this day. So
That's funny because I remember one day it was at church, and I think you were up there while the dance team was doing practice. And I was like, "Come on, Daddy, come on here and get in this dance." You was like,
oh, now today, no,
Yeah.
I'm not dancing. But it was cool back then.
Your phone keeps telling me now. I think I'm gonna just.
Oh,
You hold
You
on
need
to
the
that.
code?
I'm gonna just. No, girl. I'm just gonna get it. Okay, so the question for Lenny and Nat is: tell of a pivotal moment you realized you were going to actually operate as an adult.
I think I've had layers of adulthood. So, there's not one moment where I was like, all right, I gotta be a grown up now. I think there were several moments where I realized that I had to grow up, but in different ways. So when I decided that I was leaving home, that was a tricky time because it wasn't planned and it wasn't pleasant. So it was a very jarring time when I decided that I was not going to live with my mother anymore. I was already in college. I had done a year of college, and I hadn't really grown up. I feel like when I went from high school to college, it was the same almost. So I was just in the 13th grade, really, because I was already working and doing a whole lot. I feel like I was functioning as a college student in high school as well. But I wasn't living on my own. So mom still paid the bills and everything. I just kind of helped, and I worked and I did school. But when I decided to leave home, I left from Atlanta and moved here to Maryland to to go to Morgan, and it wasn't thought out. It was not a plan. There was no plan. I got on the bus and I came to Maryland. And then I came up here, and I have two older sisters, so I came and I lived with one of my older sister, not my oldest, but we were right up the street from her, so we were all in the same vicinity. I hadn't applied to Morgan. I hadn't withdrawn from Clark Atlanta University. I just got on the bus.
Oh, you at Clark?
Uh-huh. And then once I kind of went back to Atlanta, it kind of closed the loop, as my sister would say, and withdrew from Clark and did my last month at my job down in Atlanta. It was just for a job. It wasn't a job.
That's our Danny left mention.
Wow.
Because you be looking at the camera.
Oh yeah, I forgot that's how I was talking about me last time. I'll just look at Jared. So sometimes though, when I talk about certain things, I don't like to look at people.
Okay. This is one.
Yeah, because it was a hard time.
Okay.
But anyway,
You don't want to look at it?
I look at the wall after I'm looking at y'all.
Okay.
Fuck was a good job. Here, I
Oh,
enjoyed it,
yeah.
and I enjoyed the food. It wasn't quite free, but I ate it for free.
It's good food.
Okay. I was supposed to pay for it, but I didn't.
Camera.
They just make me a burger right quick, sliding on the side.
Come on, Amber.
So anyway, so when I came to Maryland, I realized like I can't really live off of my sisters, and then I had to take care of me, but I needed a place to live.
Yeah.
So that's when I kind of started to step into finding my voice or finding out who I am. I still hadn't really found my niche. I knew I enjoyed singing as a little girl too. I knew I was creative. I was always making up steps or dance routines. I had a little group called Girls in the Hood, y'all. So ghetto.
Well, back in Atlanta? In Atlanta, you did?
No, in Newark.
Oh, okay.
As a little girl.
Really?
It was my kid.
All right.
When we had a block party, we did our mess. Anyway, so I just realized I had to really grow up and be more responsible. That was a pivotal moment. But then when I got in a relationship, relationships are funny, and I try to explain this to younger people, but the only relationship that really counts is my relationship with Montague. When I think about other ones, I'm like, wait,
Right.
oh yeah, no, I don't really care. I cried a little bit, but I think I did just because that's what you do. Like I really didn't care about these guys, and I think it was vice versa. So wasn't nobody missing nothing. Once it was like, all right, no, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So really, once I got into the relationship with Montague, he was a very serious guy. Like he knew. I mean, he was funny and but he was very serious about me. He was very serious, and I was just like, okay, like you a little intense. I don't know what all this is, but I realized I had to then really start making real decisions. So that whole thing and getting married, then having a baby, it had to be a different baby. It had to be. You just like, and I keep having to grow up.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what I'm realizing. Now that my daughter's a teenager, and it's a different ballgame. And Joshua was coming into being a teenager, and I have to learn how to parent with regards to that. My husband and I have been married for 16 years. It's a different, in so many different things. I have to grow up. My mom's we're going through, I think it's a crisis. I don't know how to describe it really, because when you watch on TV, when family gets sick, it's this big dramatic thing. And, they're like, I'm dying. And it's just a whole, like, it's not like that. And so I have a hard time. Is this a family crisis or not? Because things have been so tough, I feel like, for so much of my life. I have a hard time knowing, is this tough or is this just roll with it? So trying to navigate appropriately. You just gotta keep growing up.
That's good.
So I just feel like there's so many different times. And I feel like right now I'm in the midst of a time where my relationship with my mother, my sisters, even my family. Everything is so new. Even at my job, everything is so new. So I'm still growing up. And people talk about adulting. Adulting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Jim, you want to
I knew we should have had. I knew we
like
should
you
have
see
had
me on
some
there
old.
struggling. You got like a whole box.
We should have had.
Thank you. But people talk about it, talk about adulting, but it really is like I know that's like some people think that's whack, but it really is a thing. Like you really have to
Keep it on up here.
you really do have to navigate differently as seasons change, and you can't piddle. There's no time to sit down and say, all right, let me, like, you got to just keep,
Keep it moving.
it's like a big old bowling ball, and you feel like a pin, and you want to be the bowling ball, but you ain't. And just trying to figure it out. I think that's growing up. I think that's growing. I wrote a letter to Pastor Lawrence. He the best pastor in the world.
That's our pastor, y'all. That's
I
how
really
it
love
is.
my pastor. Right? But I remember one Father's Day, and y'all know my story with my dad. He left when I was 6 years old. It is what it is. But I wrote a letter to my pastor, and I said, Happy Father's Day. I know, we talk about spiritual father and everything, but I'm like, I grew up here from the age of 19 to whatever age I was, probably 30 or so at the time. And I realized, like, you fathered me through this portion of me growing up. And, you just, seasons, it's just so real. I don't know if I'm talking in circles, but I have a lot going on, as y'all can tell.
You allow.
And right now I'm in it. I'm in a point where I'm like, okay, I gotta be an adult with this. I have to be spiritually mature. Because when we talk about being an adult, I was saying to my students, and I was like, we were talking about Ruby Bridges, and I was like, oh yeah, she's still alive. She's an adult. They were like, oh yeah, she's 13. And I was like, I said, 13-year-old is not an adult. And they were like, oh, she's 18. I was like, 18-year-olds think they're adults.
Right.
Like, it's a more of a thing of maturity. And as you mature, you're still growing up. So, to younger people who feel like I'm grown, you're going to find yourself feeling like, oh, I'm not grown yet. Okay, so I got to do this now. And every time you turn, I'm 41, and I'm turning around like, oh, okay, I still need to grow up here and there and there. And, the scripture is real, and it says, I have not considered myself to have arrived, but I press toward the mark. Like, that's ongoing, to walk in what God has for us and to walk in what God has purpose for us. And you will just continue to grow. And I'm like in this bubble of figuring out a new time, a new season, a new way of thinking, a new way of tackling things that need to be done, a new way of leaning on people instead of pulling away from people. And it's just real all the time. It's like real all the time, yo. Like, growing up is just like, okay, growing up again. Every time you turn around. So, I'm in it now. To answer the question, if I answer.
Yeah, we can answer that. That was an answer right there. After listening to you, it's somewhat, yeah. I feel like, I guess then I too have been like growing up all the time. I knew a pivotal time was 25 when, because I was spoiled, although I was the oldest, but I think I was spoiled because I was the oldest. The first child, first grandchild on both sides of the family. So I was always spoiled. I wouldn't say like that
Right.
loving. No, I was spoiled rotten. That was an absolute. But I don't necessarily know that just loving, warm and fuzzy environment. That is not. I wouldn't say that was what I grew up in. But adulting, I think, that actually, like, after listening to Natyra, I feel like that started when I was 11, started adulting, because that's the age that my parents divorced. And so my mother was leaning very heavily on me to do things, make sure that me and my sister were getting home from school, or make sure, I just constantly had to be making sure that things were going on, and, watching out for my little sister, even though she was only, even though she is only 11 months younger than me. But still, my mother put a lot of, emphasis on me ensuring that certain things were done while she was working until she came home. Um, so I feel like from that, then yes, I've been adulting since I was 11 years old. But the pivotal time when I knew it was like, okay, you can't keep doing this any longer, like going back to them, leaning on them, messing up in this area, messing up in that area. It was really when I hit 25. I had graduated, and by then I had graduated from college. Um, I was settling in because, I didn't want to be that, I didn't want to go back home. My mother said, um, I moved out, I had my own apartment, living on campus, and I had been paying my rent. But the last year of school, I didn't want to work. I wanted to make sure that I was getting my grades up and really kind of just focus on school, focus on my grades, trying to get my GPA up. I don't know why, but I just wanted to finish a little better than what I had been doing. And so they had helped me that year. I had asked them at pivotal times, okay, I have enough money to cover this, but I'm going to need your help with this and this. And so just living on your own, you're adulting, you're doing your thing. You come in when you're going, you're doing what you're doing. You really just don't want to, I really just did not want to go back to that, living under my mother's household, really. I didn't want to go back to living under her rules, come in, you come in at this time. I was like, well, I kind of come in when I want to come in. Or if I don't want to come in, I don't want to come in. So I asked her, I said, well, can you help me a little longer? And she was like, Annette, she said, you don't have no job by the time you graduate. You don't have to come home. So I was like, yeah, I'm not going back to Sharon. So I went and found a job the week before I graduated.
I thought you meant sharing.
Sharon Miller. That was not what I was doing. I wasn't going back home. So I found a job the week before I graduated, and I told her that I had enough. I had a roommate, so I told her I could, keep my bills, and she was like, okay, and I did that. But I still wasn't being as responsible. I wasn't really managing my money well. That was the main thing. I really wasn't managing my money well. I was going to work and I was doing what I was doing, but so when I hit 25, it was like, okay, you really got to get this together. Like, you can't keep going and, you can't keep bringing your checking account down to zero, waiting for your next paycheck to hit. Like, that's just dumb. So, you
Was
really.
that scary to you? Because when you said that, that's scary.
Nah, I had
And I
food
think I
in
put myself in.
No, I had food in the house, so I could get back and forth to work. So it was like, all right, you good. Everything else is covered. As long as you get back and forth to work, you got it. And that's kind of how I was just living, because no one had really showed me this is not how you do this. It was a lot of sayings, like you need to put money away for a rainy day, but it wasn't, this is actually how you put the money away for a rainy day. It was a lot of statements being thrown out, but not, okay, let me show you these actual steps. And so when I hit 25, it was definitely like, yeah, you need to get yourself together. And then when Justin was coming along, then it was definitely like, look, you can't keep flowing the way you flowing, girl, because you got a baby coming on the way. So
How old were you when you
I was turning 26. So yes. So then it was like, oh, you will be responsible for them. So you definitely have to give it to them.
She said someone else is coming. You got to be
I
responsible.
did.
She wouldn't.
I'm sorry. I said someone else is coming, meaning Justin. And yeah, you gotta get it together because you're responsible for this person now. That wasn't, you know, his biological father was like, nah, we're not doing that. So it's like, okay, you on your own. And so you gotta get it together. Although my grandmother and my mother were very pivotal, they were very helpful in that, you know, because I thought I was gonna have to go back home. I actually made plans to go back to New Jersey then, and they were like, no, we don't want you to do that. They said, so my mother was okay with it. She was okay with me coming back home. I spoke it to her and I was like, I'm just going to come back home. I'm going to, I'm going to find a job. I was teaching. And I said, I'm just going to teach in New Jersey. And, I'm going to ask grandma, will she watch Justin while I go to work?
Mm-hmm.
And when I spoke to my grandmother and told her I was pregnant and what I wanted to do, she said no. She said, I do not want you to come back to New Jersey. It's nothing back here for you. You stay there and we're going to figure this out. And my grandmother and my mother, very much for the first year of Justin's life, they helped me tremendously. They came every month. They came every month and helped me. They bought food for Justin. And then Justin, they created the cycle again because then Justin was spoiled because he was the first grandchild.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but 25, and then when I got married, because it was like, okay, you married now, and y'all got 4 kids at this current moment. That was an interesting moment.
And you got married at what age?
I was 28.
Okay.
28. So now you're married, and you aren't just, it's not just you and your husband, it's you, your husband, and your 3 kids, and you're one on the way. And then we decided to throw Sydney in the mix. After that. But yeah, so yes, I feel like I'm constantly growing as well, constantly adulting, because now, my kids are adults. So it's like, well, how are you the parent of adult children? That's a lot of, we talked about that last episode. That's a whole different ball game. It's a fun ball game, but then some days it's not a fun ball game. So, yeah.
Well, it's funny because I know the next question is basically, what are some things that you're now, this is for Danny and me, what are some things that we're now working on in our adult lives that stem from childhood?
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm hearing as we talk, we know each other, right? We know each other's characteristics, we know each other's the things that we are working on or the things that we laugh about, in our personalities. And it just happens so authentically. Like you're talking about how you were the oldest, right? And so you were, even though you're not that much older than your sister, your mom had a lot of expectation for you to kind of look after her. And I see that a lot in you now. Like I was teasing you about your shirt, like why you ain't getting me one? He was like, oh, okay, well, I can get you one, like, like next, a couple of weeks. I was just playing. I'm pretty sure you knew I was playing, but I'm pretty sure that there was some kind of seriousness in your answer. Like, oh, she wants one. You're not like, that's what you were doing when you were a kid. You know what I mean? So that's just, it happens like that.
Mm-hmm.
So what's something that you're working on as an adult that stems from childhood?
Well, I said that I was a very shy and quiet child, and at times I'm still that way. But I'm trying to break out of that more. And because I was an only child, I didn't really have siblings that I could talk to. Like it was just really, I was playing toys by myself. You know what I mean? With all the talk, not Barbie dolls, but with all the unless they talked. I like the talking Barbie dolls, but like the actual Barbies that didn't do nothing, I don't like those. But anyway, So when it came to like games and toys, like I would play with my parents, or I would play with myself. So I just learned how to live my life just kind of by myself. But I had friends would come over, we would have sleepovers and different things like that. But a lot of just what I did was by myself because I was an only child. And so even now, I'm trying to get out of that kind of seclusionness about me, because I can be very introverted. I can be very just seclusive, and I'm really just trying to work on that. I think it was Tyra that said, she's trying to learn how to lean more on people, and I'm still learning how to do that as well. I've just leaned on myself a lot, if I can say it like that. And because I grew up in a home where, when it came to our business, we don't really talk about our business is here, so I learned how to deal with problems by myself. And so I have my husband, and now that I am married, like our first year of marriage was the hardest because whenever we had an issue, I would just shut down, deal with the problem internally, and I wouldn't really communicate my feelings to him. Even today, I'm not like how I was in my first year of marriage, thank you, Lord. But even today, Jared at times still has to like pull stuff out of me. Like, sweetheart, why didn't you talk to me about this? Because for so long, I just dealt with things internally. And so that's definitely something that I'm working on. And yeah, again, just going back to the whole shy quietness about me. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with it, but you have to know when it's time to actually speak up. So I have moments where, okay, so this is funny. My husband's family, I love my husband's family. They're my family too. They're very outspoken. And so sometimes when I'm around his family, his side of the family, I'm like, kind of uncomfortable because it's like they're very outspoken. They speak their mind about a lot of things. And again, that's just them. That's just how most of them are, if not all of them are. But I find myself being uncomfortable at times because I'm like, I don't just be putting myself out there like that. You know what I mean? Like I don't always just share how I feel, or I just don't put myself out there that much. But I'm even learning from them that it's okay to do that. Like it's okay to share when you just ain't feeling something. It's okay to share when you're having an angry moment or something like that. And I feel like the way I'm talking is as if I don't share anything at all. And that's not true. I'm not trying to come off that way. It's just that I'm learning how to be more. I'm just learning how to just be. Just be. You know what I mean? And so I appreciate how God has placed me in my husband's family, that I can even learn from them and how they are able to just be themselves and be, that way when it comes to how they express themselves, because it pulls something out of me that needs to be pulled out. And so yeah, I would say off the top of my head, those are things I'm working on.
Well, I grew up, as an only child for 12 years, and I was laughing while you were talking. I was laughing to myself because you said how you would play with your parents, play with your children, you play with your parents, and I distinctly remember me having to keep waking up my dad, like, Dad, we playing, and he'd be falling asleep, because I didn't have nobody else to play with. Mm-hmm. And my mom tells me that I used to always draw pictures of her sleeping. So I guess when we were watching something on TV or I don't know. I think she kind of equates that to the fact that I always felt like she was falling asleep, and I just think that points to the fact that we were only children. We didn't have time. So that's why I was giggling about that. For me, I know that something that I struggle with is perfection, and allowing God to help me with that. I was telling, like, when when Jared and I were talking about the call time for this morning, he was like, okay, 8:30 is cool. And I was like, are you sure? Because 8 seems better. Just because I know that rushing for me, it makes me anxious. And so, because I'll be wanting everything just right, you know? So I think somehow that traces back to when I was a kid. Like I think about times when, you know, I had work to do, homework to do. I would always want my stuff to be perfect. I never thought my penmanship was pretty enough. Or art projects. I'm not a good illustrator. I don't really draw well, but I still always wanted, I remember this one project, I don't know what it was, but I had to create like this manila paper doll or whatever, and it turned out really nicely, and I was so happy because that wasn't a thing for me, you know? So just thinking back about even, you know, having to be as a girl, right? Getting dressed, growing up, want to look cute. You know, I know that's a thing. You know, you want to look presentable, but it's kind of like sometimes I would visit the mirror like, okay, did this hair stay in place? Okay, is these bangs still flip like that? Okay, you know what I mean? So,
It's exhausting.
yes, it is. Yes, and so, you know, here now lately, I see how much that started. I see that started then in my childhood, and I don't really know why. Well, a lot of my family's like that when I think about it, and I think, you know, when you grow up in a certain environment and certain habits are practiced, you naturally pick them up.
Absolutely.
So, I know, like my father has perfect penmanship. It's beautiful. Every stroke, every loop, every eye, every perfect height, everything. You know what I'm saying? He's an excellent mathematician. I don't think I'm lying when I say he got a perfect math score on his SAT when he was in high school. Grandmother was very high achieving, like first Black woman to ascend to the height that she did in the Girl Scouts organization. So just a very proud family. And I know, you know, when we talk about being proud, the world looks at it as I'm super proud of myself. I'm happy with who I am, and I love myself before anybody else has to love me, right? But when we look at spiritual pride, that ain't so tough. You see what I'm saying? And so the Lord is uncovering a lot about what I grew up around, and a lot of it was good, but some of that was not so good. And I think the enemy likes to stay hidden in that, because attributes that we would think make a strong family, the enemy will use that to tear you down at the same time. So that whole perfection thing, God is working on me right now with that, and I see where it comes from in my lineage. But the really cool thing that I'm learning, and this makes me think about what you're talking about now, when you said, I always find myself I keep having to grow up. That is so true. And life ain't gonna stop. It's not going to stop. I remember in previous live stream we did, when you were gone, I remember I was sharing the lesson that I'm learning, and that was process. But how process is killing my pride. So that traces right back to what I'm talking about, right? Pride, perfection. And I talked about how I underwent some spiritual mental warfare where I just could not get a hold of my stable mind for years, right? But I had already gotten married, was already a wife. I had already had 2 children. I was already a mom. I could not put life on pause to get myself together. And I just felt like I was spinning out of control. You probably couldn't see that on the outside, but internally it was very unstable. And but what God is teaching me now, because the warfare is over, and I'm so I'm so thankful for that to God, because He's broken some generational curses through that warfare. That's why I had to go through. But what he has me in a season of healing now, in a season of trying to rest and just let him wash me. You know what I'm saying? Let him rebuild me. Let him let him take care of me. But life is still moving. And what I'm learning, and I believe he's really going to do some things with this through me, because he's doing it in me right now, is still don't be afraid to feel. A lot of times, I know that as I've grown up in the church, it has looked like to me, you know what I'm saying? Maybe I've created my own narrative, I don't know. But it has looked like to me, you know, we have the word, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but power, love, and a sound mind. And we're fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are thy works, and this my soul knows right well. And we have the word to stand on. We have the word to rehearse. But a lot of times I feel like we skip over how we feel just to get to, I can say that I'm being strong. And that's not so good. That is not so
Definitely.
good. So the important thing that I'm learning is do not be afraid of the feelings. Feelings do not define us. They are not supposed to control us. We don't live on how we feel, but they are there. And I actually remember you saying this one time at a woman's thing we were having, and you were talking about how, I feel like you were saying, you know, God cares about how we feel. And sometimes in the church, we act like he's not supposed to care about how we feel. So we're not supposed to care about how we feel. And that's a lie. That's a lie. He built us the way he built us for a reason. And we have emotions. We have a heart. We have a mind. We have a soul that needs a savior. But a lot of times I feel like we shortchange our soul and what we need in our humanity from a heavenly Father. And so I just echo that. I am learning to not be afraid of how I feel, but to sit in that sometimes. Acknowledge that. Okay, be honest with myself. Don't feel like I'm spiritually weak because I feel afraid. I feel anxious. I'm pissed off right now. You know what I'm saying? I don't cry. Or she said it. She said it.
You said
You said that. But it's really liberating, because if I don't want to shortchange the experience that God can give me and really help me understand just how much I need him. I'm not going to try and fake like I'm not scared. God, Nick, you scared? Yep, I'm scared. God, I'm scared. So what do you say about that? So start there and let him walk me through to his word, how I'm supposed to be thinking. But I feel like if we keep, like you said, sometimes you would hold stuff in, you would just kind of internalize things. That's not healthy for you.
Not at all. Even physically.
It's not.
At all.
It's not. It works itself out in your physical body. You know what I'm saying? Neck pain, shoulder pain, headaches.
Headaches lately
tension.
for me, and I'm like, okay, I need to get this under control.
Yes. Yeah. So don't be afraid to feel. Know that there's a savior. We serve a God. You know what I'm saying? Who understands how we feel. Jesus felt what we feel. He's our high priest. So that's what I'm learning in allowing God to navigate me through this personality that I have. You know, that make a list, regimented, very structured type of personality. I'm letting him show me, yeah, bro, this is what you're working with, but this is who I am. And this is how I'm going to work with you.
So what about y'all being sporty? Because y'all said y'all want to talk about it.
Right? Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
So
You tried to skip it.
you said
That's how I was like, wait a minute.
I was like, I wonder what that looked like as for adults, because I ain't never been sport.
right.
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you for throwing us back to that.
Yeah, I totally forgot. Like you said, when you got married, you realized how spoiled you were. It was the same for me. So my husband does a lot, right? He does a lot, and he knows how to do just a lot of things, whether it comes to fixing things or just he knows how to do a lot. And so growing up,
Just I trying to make sure everything okay. It's like the last time that phone failed. Okay, go ahead. Fine, everybody. I think that's
That's probably what it is.
yeah.
But growing up, my stepdad was the same way. He just knew how to just do stuff. And so when it came to certain things, or really a lot of things, my hands didn't have to touch it because they handled it for me. My stepdad, or even my mom at times, they handled it for me. I even remember asking my parents once, how do you balance a checkbook? And they were like, why do you need to know that? And I was like, because I'm getting older, like I would like to know. And I think for them, they were just like, you're fine right now, like you'll be good.
Mhm.
So they just really not sheltered, but they just did so much for me.
Mhm.
And so when I got married, I realized like, oh shoot, my parents did so much for me that I don't even know how to do that right there. You know, whatever that was.
Mhm.
And so I think a lot of that came from just being spoiled. And my parents were great parents. They did a great job raising me. Because I was spoiled, I just think that they just wanted me to just have it all. Like, you know, I'm just gonna give my daughter these gifts. And the fact that I was a good student in school, I didn't really give them a lot of trouble growing up. They just gave me things. And again, a lot of that was also they with my whatever it is, can y'all come help me? And then at that point, my hands are off. They're just doing it. So I'm realizing in my marriage, like Jared is like, so why you ain't just figure it out yourself? And I'm like, because you know how to do it. And he's like, sweetheart, all you had to do was A, B, C, and D. I'm like, Dad, you're right. So that comes with just being spoiled, and my parents just doing so much for me. You know what I mean? That now I'm like, oh, I'm stuck in that anymore because I'm for real a grown adult, and I can't expect my husband to just, babe, you got it. You know what I mean? Because he's so hands on with so much. Like, babe, you got it. But it's a detriment to me and to him if I'm relying so much on him to do so much because of that spoiled mentality that I didn't realize I had necessarily.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I would say for me, that's how it's affecting me.
Yeah, I think marriage really revealed that to me too. Now, Quasi did not grow up spoiled. Like you keep saying, I was now spoiled. Quasi was now spoiled too. You feel me? He was no, he was not spoiled, and I was. And so I think us trying to meet in the middle somewhere. When I looked at him like, why you don't really celebrate birthdays? My birthday is today. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's going on? And he was just like, I didn't really, rewards was not a thing in my childhood. I had to work for everything. You know what I'm saying? I had to get these certain grades on my report card if I wanted this whatever extra, right? I had to work for that. And that was never my story, you know? Again, go back to the gifts under my grandparents' tree. 95% of them were for me, and I still had an attitude when I finished opening my last one. And so, I mean, it was so real, man. It was so real. And I was just finished opening them, and then I'd be looking around like, where's the rest? You know what I'm saying? Like, where's the rest? And everybody was sitting, watching me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Everything surrounded Nikki. So that's how deeply and that was every year, every Christmas. And so just think about that gift giving experience. And then me getting married and being like,
And you ain't got no birthday card.
Like, did you even say happy? You know what I'm going from that to, you know what I mean, over the years. And so it was my eyes were just pop wide open. And us trying to meet somewhere in the middle has been, it's been interesting, but I'm grateful to be able to say that we've been doing like this. You know what I'm saying? We didn't just stay like this and one person going like this or one person going like this. We've been walking to meet in the middle. And just being open to Quasi telling me stuff about myself that he's like, you didn't really realize that you were doing that. Like, you didn't really realize that it might affect other people this way. You know, because when he comes to me with those kinds of conversations, internally I'd be like, who are you to tell me? You don't see this about you? You know what I'm saying? But you're telling me about this. I think some of that
We always.
I think
do
that's
that
a
thing.
that's a
And
presentation.
I know that's
Like, wait a minute,
right.
you didn't see that
Yeah.
about yourself? Get that together. Don't be talking about my stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Get that together before you come up with this. That's definitely.
Yeah, I think that's a thing, period, for people in relationships.
I said I might verbalize that. Like I might say that.
Oh,
I might say that. Get that together before you come.
Like you
Come
don't
over.
think
Right.
it's out there.
That might come out. I'm sorry. Go
Not a
ahead. I
thought
digress.
bubble. It's a
No,
dialogue bubble.
it might. It might be. No.
Copy
It depends on the day. It might be one of the dialogue bubbles.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But I was gonna say, like you're showing, that's a thing in relationships and communication, period. But I think that coming from a spoiled background, it was kind of extra intense for me.
Mhm.
You know, extra offensive to me.
Mhm.
So
You say offensive.
Okay, I just wanted to know that. What y'all think.
are you satisfied?
Mhm.
Okay.
Because again, okay, kind of going back to how my parents had, just a lot of things just lined up for me. Like you said, you were working, you felt like a college student in high school,
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
I didn't feel like that.
As soon as I could work, I went to work.
Yeah, like because my parents were very blessed to have very, stable jobs, receiving great income, and so they were able to pay a lot of my expenses. The only time that I worked was during the summer in college. I didn't work throughout college, and granted, the money I got, I had a very good job in the summertime, so my money, I was able to have it last throughout my entire school year, which was a blessing. But it was one of those things. Yeah, it was a very, very well paid job. Yeah, it was good. But my parents, they just really made it, I guess, easy for me, which I think parents always want to do that for their children, right? They want to make things easy for them. But I think there's a balance with that too, to make sure that your child is still responsible the way that they need to be as well.
Yeah.
And so just different upbringings, just, yeah.
Listen, if y'all come around for Danny's birthday and see the gift she be getting today
From home. I mean, from parents.
from her parents,
Even my
if you want some cake,
my grandparents.
you come around here
Yeah.
because her mama gonna buy her one of them super galactic.
Oh, you were at
Yes.
You know, from gourmet cakes.
Yes.
So come around.
I have been witness to that. Yes.
What's the who's
It's us
is it?
too.
Oh, yeah, this is a question. What would you say to the little girl or the high school age version of yourself?
So I don't know. I've been thinking about that question for what it's so much to say. It really is. It's just so much to say to little Lynn and high school Lynn. I think the main thing I would tell her was that she was beautiful and she was pretty. She was smart. Because she was just so needy. She definitely didn't feel beautiful. I was thinking about that pivotal time in my life, and it's funny now, but it really like stuck with me when there was this boy in my class that I told him I liked him, and I wanted to be his girlfriend. I don't know why. I guess I've just always been kind of like, just looking back on my life, like I've always been that bold person. I wouldn't have thought I was, but I guess I have been. And I told this boy in my class that I liked him, and I wanted to be his girlfriend, and he was like, "Ew, you're ugly." And
The tar got attitude.
he actually was. He was. Let me say this. He was the cutest boy in the class, and that stuck with me. That was like second grade, and that like really stuck with me for a long time. And after that, and I never I really thought I was ugly after that, and he said it in front of other boys too, and they laughed at it.
Mm.
So I think that also had something to do with, like, I don't really like people making fun of me and laughing at me. Like, even Dante, he'll be making jokes, and I will, like, instantly
It's like a trigger.
instantly mad about it. And you know, so yeah, I would definitely let her know that she was beautiful, she was smart, and she was pretty, so that, you know, she wouldn't be out there looking for that, searching
Yes.
searching for that in a sense, because you know, you guys know my family history. My father had his own set of issues. My mother had her own set of issues. And it wasn't a good environment that I grew up in. And so she was a very needy person. And I would definitely let her know about God, because I didn't grow up in church. You know, that wasn't us every Sunday. Or the EM. We didn't even go on Christmas. We were the Easter Mother Day. We were the Easter Mother Day attendant. And so I would definitely let her know about God and how much He loved her. So that she wouldn't have been out there searching the way she was searching. To ensure that, you know, because that's really was a very big portion of my life. I just wanted to be loved. I just wanted somebody to love me. I just wanted to feel special, and, you know, and know that I was beautiful. My mom had her way of trying to kind of deal with how we were growing up and dealing with things, which was critical, very critical at certain moments in my life, like when I was filling out, when I was, you know, like just getting older and growing. She had her own way of kind of dealing with that. And it wasn't always, it was more of a body shaming. I don't think she really knew that's what she was doing at the time, though. But it was really like a body shaming thing. So I didn't have a good image of myself and how I looked and appeared, which then kind of like, you know, like that. So just kept snowballing into what it, you know, kind of what it was and what it morphed into being. So when, you know, like when Dante came along, it was like, yeah, baby, what you saying? Okay. And so yeah.
And he was telling you were pretty?
He was constantly saying, he constantly was saying he knew I was supposed to be his wife. He said that a lot. Like, I know we want to get married. I know this. I know you're supposed to be my wife. And I was just always looking at him side eye, like, okay, brother. All right. And then, you know, we got, of course, you know, we were not the saving ourselves for marriage couple.
They weren't.
We were not. And so, you know, when Christian came along, of course, Christian, and I wanted to be married before Christian was born. I just wanted to do things differently, break that generational curse, because I had Justin, he had the twins. So it was like, okay, let's try to build this right. And so it was more of, I think you're marrying me now because I'm pregnant. You know, like, it's not, you marry me really because you're marrying me. You marry me because you love me. You marry me because I'm pregnant. And I said, I want to be married before Christian was born.
So was he saying that about, he knew you were his wife before y'all got pregnant?
Oh, he knew. He said that. He actually, Dante said that maybe 2 weeks after we were dating. He was like, yeah. I know you want to, let's get married. And I was like, we haven't even, I don't even meet your mama yet. Like, you didn't meet my mama. Like, I don't know, we should do that. But he kept saying it. He did. He kept saying it. And I didn't necessarily believe him. Yeah. So I would definitely do that. And I made sure that I did that with Sydney. No, I made sure that I told Sydney she was pretty and she was beautiful. And when she came to me and told me that some little boys were picking on her, I just kept affirming her that she was pretty, she was beautiful, she was smart, and she's my pretty pumpkin. And they come in all shapes and sizes and things like that. I still do call her my pretty pumpkin. She does not like that now.
Yeah.
She will definitely tell me I'm being weird. She tells me that you're being weird, and I really wish you'd stop. Or I hate that about you. Stop being weird. But I told Sydney so much that she was beautiful, and that she was smart. That when I say, "Oh, Sydney, you're so beautiful," her response is, "I know." And I'll say a simple thank you. A simple thank you will do, Sid. But she knows that. She definitely knows that she's beautiful and she's smart, and I'm very proud of her. And that I admire her, which I tell her that often, that she is definitely a different young lady than who I was growing up. I admire her because she has not had that drama like that. And so yeah, I would definitely tell her she was beautiful, that God loved her. And that's really all that matters.
Yeah.
That God loves you. And this is how much he loved you. This is what he did to show you how much he loved you. So she wouldn't have to have been searching for the love as long as she was.
I have a couple of things I would say to the topic.
What age? Little.
All the way through.
Yeah.
First, it's the same because my look just wasn't cool in the 80s and 90s. I was dark skinned, scrawny, no boobies.
Yeah.
We still looking around.
Come on.
For when that's going to
Let's talk
manifest.
about
It's okay.
Yeah.
But I have Jerry Curl, Soul Glow.
Boobulars.
It was
I'm still. Wait, we're just.
Jerry left. And I grew up. We just didn't have enough. So the hand-me-downs never fit. Shantae's clothes just never resonated on my body. They just they were too small for her, still too big for me. Like because I can't fit this. I can't roll with this, but I'm aware of it because this is what it is. So it was a lot of teasing. Here in Baltimore, they call it bobos. When no name shoes. Where in North they call it jeepers. But either way, I was rocking jeepers, and I just in the eyes of other children, I just wasn't cute. I just wasn't no parts. And that was it's rough for a kid to walk through that and try to still feel okay with yourself. And I just didn't. I wasn't okay in the skin. And just to remind myself that you are cute. I look at little girl. We we're talking about Ruby Bridges, and y'all know what everybody know what little brown skin girl, and she's on the cover right. So yesterday I asked my students, what do you notice and wonder about the book, or the cover of the book? And one student raised his hand. He said, Ruby Bridges looks familiar. I was like, oh, listen, I was writing it down, and I was right. I still don't know who said it. Another kid was like, she looks like you, Miss Blount. And I was like, she does look like that. I did look like that when I was looking down this whole little road. And I was a cute little brown skinned little girl.
Yes.
But that's not what the other kids said.
Yes.
And frankly, it's not what my mother said either. So just trying to navigate what everybody was telling me, realizing it wasn't the truth. Guys, you just as a kid, you just don't know how you can't.
Right.
Kids can't do that,
Right.
which is why our words are so powerful.
Yes.
We really have to be mindful of what we're saying to our children. So when I was thinking about the question, I was thinking about Zamara, and just because she's my girl, but also my boys in the same way. And what I'm telling them is what I would have told me.
Okay.
You know,
Right.
I tell Zamara she's beautiful every day. And she just really is this beautiful girl. But it's so much more than just that. She you know, she's got a cute little figure. She's got a nice face. She has great hair. And I compliment all that too. But then just inward, she's so, you know, such a beautiful person. And, you know, for my boys as well. I mean, I don't have to tell Gideon because he flexes in the mirror.
That's right.
He's 10 now, but
Yeah.
you know, what are you going to do? But just reminding them. So that's definitely the message that little Natara needs to hear. But also, you remember Harvest? This is your time.
Oh.
All right. So the verses say, you've been waiting, anticipating for something more to come. Seems like you have nothing to hold. Sorry.
I was wondering if tissue was open.
I'm so frustrated. I don't want to cry. All right. Anyway, to hold on to, but God will come through. Wait and see. There's more. I tell Zamira all the time. And I tell my kids all the time, like, when you get to this point in life, well, this stuff you're worried about. It's not going to matter. And it was just hard to see as a young person that what those kids were saying at the end of the day wasn't true, but you know what's happening now, just wait. You just have to wait. And I think waiting is so hard for kids.
Yes.
They can't go to sleep Christmas Eve because they can't wait to open their gifts. Gideon has been talking about the fact that his birthday's on the 18th in January. He was like, yeah, but my birthday's in February. Like the kids just can't wait. And what is happening in the moment is their world. But even for teenagers and young adults, like that moment, it's like that's your world during that time. I think we forget that you come out of it. When you're in it, it's just overwhelming.
Yes.
And the young version of myself just couldn't understand that there's more on the other side.
Right.
To the point when I got to the other side of something, I still acted like I was still in it.
Sure.
So with my husband, he tells me I'm beautiful every single day. Lots of people looks at me like we just met all the time. And I'm like, yo, he is so fake. Like,
How you doing all that?
like he literally, you know, looks at me like he just can't believe that I'm his wife. And I'm like, bro, I'm not that much. But I'm still living like I'm the girl nobody wanted to talk to in high school. I didn't really have a boyfriend in high school, which is okay. But at the time, you don't know that. You just don't know that's okay. You don't realize, like, wait and see, there's more. Like, just, and when you get there, you just don't realize that you're there, and your mind is still in that muck.
Yes.
And changing our minds, it can be hard. When I was talking to a pediatrician yesterday, and I was like, I was trying to tell about one of my sons. I was trying to tell him that the movie wasn't real, and he was having dreams, and he was grappling with it for weeks. She was like, when somebody reaches that point of anxiety, you can't change their mind once they're there.
Right.
And if I could have convinced teenage Natira, preteen Natira, young Natira, that it's just a time, and then you'll come out of it. It's another time, and then you'll come out of it. Then I wouldn't have all of these times layered on me now.
Yes.
When it's not the time, those have passed, and now I'm trying to take them off, and it's a much harder process.
Yes.
than to just say, all right, that's done. This is what I learned. This is what I need to do moving forward.
Yes.
And when you don't do that, you just, it's like a bag lady. Like they talk about baggage, it's so real. You just have it. You're just walking around with it. And then I'm not doing 2 trips taking groceries in the house. I'm making fingers first. I'm going to get it on my hand, and my fingers could be purple by the time, but I'm not going back. And you ever have someone say, you want me to grab? And you say, no, actually, because if I let it go, I'll drop everything. So I kind of have it balanced. That's where I find myself. If I let go of a bag, then I'm just going to probably drop everything. So now I got it. I'm just going to hold on to it. And when I get to wherever I'm getting to, I'll put it all down at once. And you can't do it that way. And if I could tell young Natira, you just got to learn seasons, and things happen in specific seasons to ready you for the next season. And then those things, and it's hard things, and just let it go, and it's done. And now you're in a new season. It would just be an easier road for 41-year-old Natira, who now has other things to navigate and still trying to shed old seasons. So just learning, just wait. Just wait a minute. Just wait. It's coming. Just do what you need to do now. Navigate now. Know what your lifelines are during this time. Who can you talk to? What can you do? What should you be reading, or what should you be doing right now for this time? And then it's like scaffolding as a school teacher. When you scaffold, you provide things that the students will need because they don't know how to do whatever you're showing them. Yeah. So we're doing subtraction. We're using a place value chart. You make the little circles. When you decompose a 10, you cross it out and you move it. And eventually they should just do the algorithm.
Right.
And remember, this is what this means when I cross out the 6 and put the 5 because I'm decomposing the 10. This is the drawing I need to help count eventually.
I think you left.
Sorry, but carry the one regrouping.
Right. Carrie, you remember that? Carrie?
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
But they should be able to do that vertical regrouping equation that we learned without the picture eventually.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you don't, eventually you need to take those scaffolds away from the students, because when they go to 3rd grade, their 3rd grade teacher's not going to want to see them little circles. You're not getting a place value chart. You need to know how to do this. Like in 2nd grade, you should have learned how to do it without, and that's what our life is. There are certain things that for a time I need this. When I come out of the season, I don't need this anymore. But I still feel like I need it. But I don't. And it's not a good practice for me to train my students to always use the place value chart. Because then it becomes a problem for the 3rd grade teacher. And this stuff I didn't let go becomes a problem for Montague. And this stuff I didn't let go becomes a problem for my children. The stuff I didn't let go becomes a problem for my pastor or for my friends. They all got to deal with my baggage because I didn't want to put that one bag down. Somebody came to take it, and I was like, nah, because I'm balanced.
I got
But
it.
if younger Natira could have just understood everything, you don't have to carry it. It's okay to put it down. It's not your responsibility to keep it. Why? When you don't need it for the next season. It's not relevant anymore.
Yeah.
Just why? So I think that would have helped for a time such as this. And it's okay because now I understand what I have to do. It's just I wish I'd have known. Because if you don't, it's just a harder way of doing things. But it didn't have to be.
Right.
So that's what I would say.
That's a lot. of good stuff.
Definitely.
You made me think of something entirely with the bag illustration. I don't think sometimes we realize the importance of just setting on the we wish we want to get to the point where we can just put it all down and be okay. But there's, how do I want to say it? There are steps. There's a process within it all. And I think sometimes because we can't set them all down, we're not okay with just putting one or two down. When if we put one or two down, eventually we'll get to them all being put down. But the fact that we have to just put a little bit down, it's like, no, I'm good. I'd rather just carry it all. And I think if we embrace process more, we'll be able to, little by little, become better people. You know what I mean? Because we just can't put it all down. It's going to take a process. It's going to take a one by one. And then you'll be able to look back and say, I don't deal with that no more. You know?
You won't even realize where it happened. You know what I'm saying? Where you stopped having to deal with it. You look up.
I just know for me, sometimes I'm like, man, I just want to be good.
Yes.
Like, just be good.
Yes.
But it's a process. It's a process.
Or you try to act like you are good until a challenge comes.
Come on.
And then the real, then you're like, I still got attitude like that.
Mhm.
And how do you manage that?
I know that in this healing season I'm in, like you said, Danny, okay, God, I'm in the healing season. Zap, I'm healed. Right? Like, because honestly, like if you equate it to if I was in a physical fight, I won, but I still got hit. My lips still busted. My eyes still black. I gotta go to the stylist because my hair is messed up. Right? My body hurts. That healing doesn't happen with me. I gotta let my skin heal. I gotta let my eye heal. Gotta let my lip heal. Gotta go get my hair done. Gotta let these aches, my body heal itself. And God has to keep reminding me, sit here in this healing. I got it. Right? Remember what I say, but don't despise what you need. And that is a part of the process, you know? Because, like you said, when we get to the other side of things and we realize, wow, I see how that worked for me, and I have the skill to navigate on this level because of what I went through, and allow God to seal it all up and heal it all up for me. Yes, there will be things in life that will still act as triggers, right? But when I believe there are places where we still see the triggers, but God has taught us how to navigate through it. Okay, God, yep. Ooh, that jarred me, right? But I'm honest about being jarred. And then I go back to what you said and what you're currently saying. And I remember this is where I am. I don't think that's ever, we ain't ever going to feel perfect. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to feel like the Justice League. You know what I'm saying? Superman, or is it DC Comics? Whatever.
Yes.
But he helps us with all of that. So everything that has been said is really, really good. And I'm just grateful that we are not afraid to be transparent in this way, because I know a lot of people long for transparency. And so, yeah.
I'm hoping it's comfortable. When you're talking about the healing and acknowledging, I'm thinking about the book of Psalms and David. David often acknowledged, hey, look, right here, this is how I feel. You know, he acknowledged that to God. Like right now I'm anxious. Right now these people are on my back. Like they running after me. You know, I don't like it. Or he was just that person that in pouring out the songs, it was those moments where he was crying like, God, look, hey. I need you to know, look, this is where I am, right here. And he, you know, poured it out there. But at the end, it was like, okay, yes, this is where I am, but God, I still trust you. I know you still got it from here, you know. And I do feel like there are moments where we feel like, I think I thought about my mother and my grandmother. They were very resilient. I think that just no slight to men. I think what I realized is that a male's presence is very important. When I what would I say, or what did I acknowledge growing up that I really needed my father to deal with his stuff. You know, I really needed him to deal with his stuff because him not dealing with his things um, left me and my sister and my siblings open to a lot of stuff that we should not have been open to. And so I recognize how important godly male influence is needed in a child's life. Um, as I look at it from my children now and the things that they have not had to deal with, because me and my husband have decided to be the parents that we needed our kids to be because we didn't get that for ourselves. But my mom and my grandmother were just resilient. They just kept it moving. I don't think their resilience was helpful. I can see where it wasn't as helpful because even though you're just picking up and you're just moving on and you're just keeping it moving, I still can see how you're not dealing with the traumas.
Right.
And so I just know that acknowledging we have to stop and acknowledge where we are, what's going on. And even though you're still resilient and moving through because the next minute is going to come, the next day is going to come, but don't suppress because in the suppressing, it's going to explode. Then it's going to explode, and then it's like, where happened from? You know, now you exploding on somebody, or you're having a meltdown, and we all looking like, what just happened? We went out to lunch every month. Why you ain't say nothing? You know, or our husband's like, I lay next to you every night. Like, why you not talking? Like, I see you every day. Why are you keeping that to yourself? You know? And I think we have to move past a point of just wearing the mask, as PK says often. Like, you're just wearing the mask, but you're bleeding through it. You know, we have to be vulnerable enough to surrender.
Yes.
And say, this is where I am. I need help.
Yes.
You know, I need help. God, look, I need you to help me here. And your community, I need help because I'm struggling.
Yes.
You know, and be honest about it. Or if you don't, like you all know, I went to therapy during the quarantine, and it wasn't that I didn't want to share with you all, but I didn't.
Right.
You know, I wanted to. I did. There were certain things I didn't want to talk about with my friends. So with you all and my other good girlfriends, and it was just like, look, I want to go to somebody who doesn't know me, and it's your job. It is your job to just help me process through this situation so that I can be better, so I can stop being crazy.
Yes.
Because I was going crazy.
Yes.
And Christian kept saying, I think you need to go talk to somebody.
Yes.
Because I would just be exploding. It would just be like, no, I know I'm a good parent. I know it because I did this differently. And he would always say, Ma, just because we don't disagree doesn't mean that I don't think you don't love me.
Or because we don't agree.
Right. Just because we disagree doesn't mean that I don't think you don't love me or that I don't think you're a good parent. And he said it. He was like, Ma, you need to go. I just think you need to go talk to somebody.
Yes.
And I was like, maybe I do need to go talk to somebody. And I did. And it helped me process through my childhood. It helped me deal with the things my father didn't deal with. It helped me deal with the things that my mom had done that I didn't always like, but I couldn't acknowledge them to her at the time. So, yeah, I think we just need to stop glossing things over.
That's right. That's good. I'm there now.
Yeah, I think we do. And I think we as a people, as African Americans, there's just been so much trauma to us as a people. And we have just kept it in, and we keep it in. I feel like because of slavery, you can't go tell anybody. This is just what's happening. You can't tell anybody. And so as a people, I feel like we just suppress trauma and think like, oh, this is just a part of life, when it might be. But then again, how do I process it?
That's good.
I need to process through that.
Yes.
And so we do need to shed those layers, because that's not how God really, he did not design us to be carrying these extremely heavy burdens.
Right.
He says, come unto me, all who are heavy laden. I will give you rest.
And that may come, like you said, it comes through community.
Yes.
Comes through professional help sometimes.
Yes.
Or just somebody stop choking it up.
Yes.
Stop choking it up.
Or stop carrying the bags. Stop carrying. Put one bag down. And that's just, I bet you'll feel just a little lighter. Just a little lighter.
But I'm used to carrying
Yeah. But, do you want to keep carrying the load, or do you want some lightness?
And to encourage, actually I had therapy yesterday with my therapist, and she knows, about my transition from teaching and entrepreneurship. And she knows, I told her yesterday that, God started dealing with me about leaving teaching in the spring of 2018. I resigned 2019. I resigned a school year and a half later, or something like that, right? And she equated that to, yes, you're in a healing season, but you still feel the effects of the warfare. And that frustrates you sometimes, because you feel like if you're in a healing season, those effects from the warfare ought not follow you.
Yes.
She said, but she equated it to, you heard God say this about resigning a whole school year and a half before you actually got to do it. And so that word was there. You had to walk out until you caught up to it. Didn't mean that the word wasn't true. So I say that that encourages me, and I'm sharing that to encourage you guys and everybody else who is watching. And God's word is the authority.
Yes.
Right? And how he gets us through that and to that, a lot of different avenues. But his word is the final authority, and we are blessed to be able to have that from him as our very own. That this was spoken, it may feel like this, but this is the truth, and it's okay if you still feel it. Walk it out, process it, let somebody help you. That last walk it out. Oh, she's talking it up. Anybody else want to say anything?
I'm like, it's a job, like processing this conversation. There's been a lot of good things said, and it's helping me to look internally,
Well, y'all, thank y'all for being with us today at Sharpen, where we whittle life down to what matters most, and we enjoy ourselves hanging out as homegirls, girlfriends, whatever you want to call it. But we're glad that you came in with us, and we hope that our conversation has inspired you to do the same as far as whittling life down to what matters most, and allowing God to help you walk it out however he's going to help you. Community is very important, and it seems like the theme that came out today was process. So be okay with the process,